what is significant in our life as a human being is to recognize that we need to take the initiative to understand ourselves, to understand the reality, and to discover what life really is. Ordinarily, we are used to project through our conditioned mind, through the impressions and the values and the experiences which we have made in the past. Projecting through that, interpreting the impressions in such a way that we believe that this is the reality. Till you come to confront the issue very wakefully and deeply, you don't realize that you are going on projecting into the reality and not seeing what is directly and clearly and deeply. So once you allow this recognition that what you are usually seeing is a projection, and the knowledge is based on these projections, the judgments are based on these projections, then you can also see that one has to consciously put aside this approach of judging, labeling, categorizing, and be with the situation, be with the moment, be with the reality, wakefully, directly, without following this tendency of the automatism in an unconscious and blind way. Once this factor becomes so clear and deeply conscious to you, and that in every step in your life the awareness is there that what you see in the usual way is a projection, and that it is not something to be held on to as the truth, then you can also see that what we are living in is like a dream reality. We create values, we call something superior, we call something inferior, we call something special, we call something ordinary. We say this is precious and we say this is worthless. But in reality, when you look without this human conditioned projections, everything is. Then a diamond and a stone both are existing as unique manifestations of life, and you are not trapped in this game unconsciously and blindly. So it makes a big difference when you become alert about this fact, recognize the game as a game, and go into the game of it consciously, or if you are only trapped in these beliefs and concepts and so much identified with the whole thing that the whole life is a struggle, the whole life is an ongoing, entangled, burdensome process. So it is of deep importance for the human being to disentangle oneself from this automatism and learn to be with the reality consciously, wakefully, deliberately, in a direct contact, in a non-judgmental quality of being with what is. When you can see the automatism working and without getting trapped in it, can stay with the moment, then you are seeing both the aspects of the reality. The dreamlike reality, where we call this special and ordinary and valuable and not valuable and all that, and the game we have around it, and behind it, the deeper perception of being with what is, where everything starts revealing by and by the wondrousness, the uniqueness, the mystery, the divinity from which all is arising, from which all is manifesting. When you are not preoccupied and when you are not projecting through your conditioned mind, looking at the reality, you start seeing the glory of this existence, the wonder of this whole life process. You start recognizing how much intelligence, how much care and playfulness, how much beauty and deep interest is behind this whole manifest process of life. So unless you consciously enable yourself to connect to the wondrousness, to the uniqueness, to the mystery of this existence, we get limited by a robot-like existence, which is for a human being a very tragic state, because sooner or later it becomes a burdensome, struggling, uninteresting life process. Because through such projections, we don't see what really is. We only are entangled and interpreting things according to our conditionings, according to the concepts, the values, the pleasant and unpleasant experiences which we have made. So this entanglement in the dream world which we are calling the normal reality can become very conscious to oneself. And this awareness of this, and thereby going deeper and connecting to the deeper basis of the reality, that is very, very important. Only from that basis, you are in the world but not trapped in it. You are in the marketplace, but you don't let the marketplace come into you. You play the roles, enjoy, celebrate life, but yet you don't let yourself get lost and get drowned in the intoxication of these identifications and illusory process of life. The reminders which we have for this session are simply to bring this awareness consciously and deliberately into the living process. The first reminder is that in all situations where you are judging someone, where you are in contact with somebody, directly or indirectly, whether you are meeting the person directly or if it is a contact through the telephone or any other media, become alert of the projections, what is taking place. Become alert of the knowledge and the judgments which is taking place within. And look consciously and deliberately, what is that what you are experiencing when you are not going with these projections, when you are not holding to these projections. And in this way, in every encounter which you have the possibility to look what is automatically coming in you and to see what is that what you experience and recognize when you are not projecting through this automatism. When you are not going into the judging, labeling, categorizing approach, but just being with the wholeness of the moment, the wholeness of the reality. What is it that what you are experiencing? This is a very deliberate, conscious and valuable step. At least on 7 occasions during the day, experiment with this. You may get many chances, but at least on 7 occasions, go consciously and deliberately with it. And the second reminder is very much close to this, but approaching it from a little different angle. In every feeling of conflict which you experience in any situation, look what is the state of identification. Normally we are looking through the I want it, I don't want it, I like it, I don't like it kind of approach. So the middle point is the so-called I. Become aware of the so-called I and see when you are not identifying with this so-called I. Consciously and deliberately not holding to the identification, what is the perception? What do you see? What do you experience? The same reality when you are not putting the so-called I in the middle point and projecting through that. It's a different understanding, it's a different experience. So bring in very wakefully this orientation and go in a playful way to implement it, to allow it to become a deeper understanding and experiencing of what is. This also at least 7 times bring in into a conscious practice. Sometimes you may have more chances, sometimes you may not have so many chances. But these are just orientations to make it visible that staying with it as intensely, as wholeheartedly as possible is important to allow that what is possible to become visible, to become conscious, to experience it. So these are the 2 reminders which you can bring into remembrance, play with it. And remember that the quality of humor is what is very, very important. And that is what you will also see with the second reminder especially, that when you are not identified, you can see the same thing almost like with a sense of humor. Or the other way around, you can also see when you are in a humorous way looking at yourself, then you are going beyond your identification. When you can look at the seriousness, the heaviness, the automatism, and the mechanicalness which is all taking place together with it, and have the distance and are ready to allow a little smile to come into yourself. In that moment you see that you are not identified with the so-called I. And this is the human quality. You don't see a cat smiling. You don't see a dog having a belly laugh. It may be having a belly barking, but not a belly laughter. So humor has something very unique to the human nature, and it has to do with not being trapped in the identification. And when you can be with the reality without being caught in the identification, then you can also see the dreamlikeness of all this, and yet the beauty of it. On one side you see the absurdity of many things, but on the other side you also see the playfulness behind it all. And that is what is making you capable to live a life full of aliveness and intensity, but at the same time not be burdened and heavy and make it into some kind of a ongoing struggle. That is when you see that this life is a celebration, this life is a chance to awaken to the wondrousness and beauty of this existence. So, allow these reminders to be a support for you to naturally come to this understanding and recognition. When we sit now, the next hour, we stay with the remembrance to be with all what is, without holding to any identification, without trying to change anything. Whatever thoughts, whatever feelings, whatever is happening with the body, observe it all, whatever be the energy process, notice it. Whatever impatience arises, whatever restlessness arises, notice it, but don't identify with it. Just notice that it is there and it will also pass by. Just be a wakeful, alert presence in the middle of all what is taking place. With such an orientation, we sit the next hour.